Good morning, everyone, and good afternoon if you're joining us from Europe. Thank you for attending our webinar today. Our topic today is seamless migration of IBM Lotus Quickr to Microsoft Office 365. The presentation is done by Marga Systems today. Our presenters will be Gayatri Vishwanathan, she's the VP of Delivery, and Balaji, who is an architect, and he will be probably presenting the bulk of the presentation today. Again, thank you for joining us today. Just a couple of housekeeping notes. If you have a question as we go along in the presentation, please expand your GoToWebinar control panel and type in your question as we go along, and then that way they can address your question at the end of the presentation. If we run out of time, your question will be preserved, and then Marga Systems can respond directly to you. So again, thank you for attending. And Guy, I'll turn the time over to you and Balaji.
Thank you so much, Scott, and everyone on the webinar. Thank you so much for attending. My name is Gayatri. I'm usually called Guy. I head delivery in Malka Systems. I'm also a technical architect, and I've been in the field of Lotus Domino and IBM Collaboration set of products from 1998 onwards. Quite a long time, and today I would primarily focus on why Office 365, some of the challenges and things like that, and Balaji would take over for me. Balaji, over to you.
Yeah. Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining. This is Balaji, and I'm an architect on IBM Collaboration Solutions, and I've been working on this set of products for about 7 years now, and yeah, we'll have a good presentation.
Okay. So just as a quick note, Malka is a kind of a consulting company. It really means, like, the name means Pathfinder, and we've been in business for nearly 13 years and have been working with multiple technology platforms, especially the IBM collaboration platforms, for a very long time now. And we are a premier IBM partner, and we bring a mix of capabilities and boutique skills to help customers. So that's just a very quick introduction to Malka. Let's just get started. So today, we look to focus on Quickr to Office 365, the methodology to follow, some challenges that you would end up facing during this migration, and also discuss some of the adoption areas for getting your users to seamlessly, work with the new technologies. So that's going to be our agenda. So IBM Quickr, I think it was one of the very good platforms when it was at its peak, and it used to kind of really help teams work within themselves, do external collaboration, and was like customized widely. People could just very quickly put together workflows, and they could customize their rooms, and it was used for document management, knowledge sharing, and literally collaboration within organizations pretty widely. Unfortunately, it ended support on 30th of September 2016. I mean, IBM has been announcing this for quite some time, but for large organizations, it's not easy to get all your data out, get all your users out, and get behavior change for people to move into a new technology. So what are options that people do have? If you look at it, and before we start on this, let's have a quick poll. Scott, can you run the poll?
All right. Our first poll question is going to be launched in just a moment. If everyone will please participate, we do appreciate this. The poll question is, are you still using Quickr as a document management solution in your enterprise? And where it's half of us already voted, that means everybody did not stay up all night for the election results, at least here in the U.S. So hopefully we'll get the rest of you voted here in just a moment if the elections here haven't tired you out about voting. So here we go. We're almost there. I'm going to share the results of the poll in just a moment. So over 80% of us have voted. So 71% of us are still using Quickr. So there's still a substantial number of us using this solution from IBM.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks, Scott. Yeah, thanks, Scott, for running the poll, and that's kind of what I expected, primarily because it's so entrenched in the organization, and it's not very easy to move out of it, especially when you have to do an organization which has it so well entrenched into another platform, and make sure that people get the behavior, people use it as well as they used to use Quickr. That's not very easy, and that's what we are going to focus on today. So what are the alternative systems that are available for Quickr to move to? And typically when you go around the marketplace, these are the ones that you would hear. Definitely from IBM, you would hear about IBM connections, and again, in the recent past, IBM has been pushing the connections on the cloud as opposed to connections on-premise. You do hear Office 365 quite a bit. There is Atlassian Confluence, which is more of a wiki and project teams coordinating kind of a thing. And then, of course, you have the Salesforce Chatter. Now, these are the top 4 that we've been hearing. There are a few other products that are available and that people do look to move to, but they are much smaller numbers, and these 4 are pretty much the top 4 that people look to. And we looked at it and we said, hey, why is it that you look at Office 365 as an alternative? I mean, if you look at the ranking, especially recently, Quickr is not out, right? It's still in the top 15. It's ranked 14th as an enterprise social solution for managing documents, whereas Office 365 lands at number 1. And also, if you take Gartner's charts, Office 365 is well on the first quadrant. It's a leader, and it's growing day by day. And if you also look at the numbers, it plays pretty well. People are adopting to Office 365 in a very large manner. It seems to scale very well, and especially organizations that look to have their email moved to Office 365, and they look to also use their other social features like whether it is YAML, whether it is SharePoint, they find it as a good alternative where you could use that platform as the place where your organization can collaborate on documents as well. Let's do a very quick comparison. I mean, people who have been using Quickr for a long time, they use it in many, many different ways. We've seen people use it completely to, one organization that we know runs their entire auditing systems out of Quickr. Another organization publishes their, and this is a healthcare organization that I've seen, it publishes everything that comes out of their R&D department into one place for them to share. And it's all secure, and those are some of the critical features that Quickr offered and that gets used very well. So if you look at it, it's a team collaboration space. Predominantly, it's security rich, and it's not just the aspect that overall I can set up security, but it is possible for individuals who are uploading content, they could set up, fine-grained security inside documents, inside places, inside rooms that kind of give a very rich way of sharing content only to people that you really want to. Of course, it has partner-led applications that have been developed on top of it, and you also have ability to kind of very quickly integrate or pull in external collaboration, people who are outside the organization, but give them access to a very narrow set of documents or a very narrow set of your custom areas so that you get their perspective, but at the same time, you're not sharing everything from your organization. So these were like, always some of the capabilities that Quickr had that was kind of used and really overused by Quickr customers. What's the same? I mean, does this all work in Office 365? Pretty much, yes. So if you look, and these are probably terminologies on the left that almost all of you are aware, because 77% really said like they still use Quickr. So you know the equivalence. You understand places, the rooms, the folders, the files, and things like that. And for every one of them, inclusive of like, sharing, managing security, managing places, managing rooms, and specifically managing permissions with respect to a specific room or a subroom, it is possible with Office 365 as well. So pretty much there is an apples to apples comparison between the two products. But what's hot, what's more in Office 365 that we really seen get used with organizations that have migrated out into this platform. One is the metadata. You take the metadata into Office 365, and then you could create views and ability to like, quickly narrow down on content based on metadata. So you could create a custom view which is based on metadata, and that can be shared. And the same thing goes with document sets. So for example, I put together a set of documents that pertains to a specific type of proposal, or I put together a set of documents that is relevant for a solution engineer, and then I kind of like, wrap it around and hand that over to all the people who need it. So it makes it very easy for those people to access the content and work with the content that's relevant to them, and makes it so you don't necessarily have to create a room, a subroom, and then a folder, and then put it together, and you could have varied content come together as a document set. We also like the fact that you could create even more customized views, adding not just the metadata, but for example, find every document that ends with systems, and then put that together as a view, and then share that with your users and specific users, and with all the security considerations still being addressed. So we really liked this particular feature that makes it easier to use for organizations. Of course, custom tagging is available. You could add comments to all the content that you have, and then make it truly social collaboration as well. So now we get into the specific topic of migration. How do we migrate from Quickr to Office 365? And what are some of the challenges that we are going to face during this process? How can we address them? And also look at some of the aspects of adoption that we need to think about and plan ahead of time, so that when the users hit the new platform, they get a seamless experience. So this is the part that Balaji will take over from me. On to you, Balaji.
Thank you so much, Gayatri. So as Gayatri just explained, so now we know why Office 365 is the most suitable platform to migrate out of Quickr and go to. So let's deep dive into the methodology that we're going to follow for this particular migration aspect. So this is basically a 5-step process, and we start with plan, and then move to extract, transform, load, and then to adopt. So the first step, to talk about the first stage, so we spend a lot of time to understand the Quickr usage and the environment that you're using, and we also spend time to understand the characteristics like the size of a place, number of folders, files, and the members in a place, etc. And all these statistics enables us to plan the migration properly, so that when we move the documents out of the Quickr, we exactly know, like, we should be able to give users a hassle-free experience when they start using Office 365. So the next phase right now is the extract. And at this point of time, an administrator should have a clarity on the kind of places that needs to be migrated. So the list of places that needs to be migrated is one aspect of it. and then the content that needs to go from Quickr to Office 365 is another one. So in our experience that we have seen that a stage like this should have options to both batch process as well as move the places one by one. But the toolkit should also give you the capability to migrate all the places at once. But we have seen that customers most generally won't prefer to go the entire stage at one time. So while the tool also gives you the capabilities to do all these functionalities, what gives the tool the toolkit the competitive edge is to be able to pick the places that needs to be migrated and then just migrate the ones that really needs to go to the target system. And the advantage here is there might be places that we will not be using for more than let's say 3 to 6 months, and this place definitely does not need to go to the target system because this place is already being used less, and there has not been any traffic into that quite recently. So that is one, and with this we can move to the transform aspect of it. So when we move the data from one system to the another, one of the key things that needs to happen is to transform the data in such a way that the source system would be able to work with it. So in the transform aspect, we can see that there are 2 or 3 critical steps here that we're going to talk about, and we will also talk more in detail in the later sections of the presentation. The first one is the mapping members. So especially a system like Quickr, which works on Domino, and for a system like Office 365, which works with Active Directory. So the kind of user mapping is completely different if there are no common attributes to do that. And there are also certain kinds of processing that needs to be done for the data that needs to be migrated. For example, it may have some kind of a special character which Office 365 will not be able to certainly handle. And the kind of the data that Office 365 will accept, Quickr may not be able to provide that. So the transformation phase takes care of all of those things. So the other key things about the transformation phase that we are going to talk about is there might be a lot of data that is completely irrelevant for Office 365 that lies on Quickr. We call it orphan data or obsolete data. That certainly needs to stay with Quickr, or we need to find out some other way to handle such kind of data. And then like another critical thing could be it comes along with mapping members, but then the scenario is completely different. If an employee leaves the organization, or if an employee gets promoted and he gets to handle a different department, like how do we handle such kind of ownership and access privileges and so on? So the transformation phase needs to keep all these in mind, and the output and the input for extract and the transform phase comes out of the planning phase that we just talked about. And there could be another step that is of critical importance here, which is to if the metadata that is supplied from Quickr isn't suitable for the Office 365 system, that again needs to be transformed at this particular phase. So any data that is transformed at this phase goes as the input for the next, which is load. In the load phase, the data that was transformed and then extracted out of Quickr, the load routine takes care of processing all those data that was transformed and putting into the Office 365 system. The content that is processed needs to be uploaded to the appropriate sections, and the ownership needs to be kept intact. So all those things are handled at the load phase. And then with all these things done, a user can always use the system, but then it would obviously need the help of adoption specialists to go and then set the point, like the system that got migrated from, and then to bridge the difference from the system that got migrated from and the new system that we have. So in this phase, we have identified 2 critical steps that needs to be performed, which is we spend time with a lot of key stakeholders, and we understand the way that Quickr was used, and this helps us to identify the usage patterns, and this helps us to enable users on the new tool. So it is said that getting the data migrated is as difficult as changing the user habits and make them adopt the new tool. So though all the other 4 processes might go right, if the adoption doesn't go wrong, then we wouldn't be able to achieve the intended result. So with this, we move to the next slide, and before that, we will have a quick poll.
Okay.
Scott, you need to.
Yep, we're ready for a second poll here. I'm going to launch the poll, and let's discuss this one. If you have migrated or migrating, what was or are your challenges? So go ahead and select all that apply on this one. And we do appreciate your participation. Everybody is still awake and responding here. This is great. All right, over half have voted already. Let's give us about 3 more seconds. Go ahead and get those mouse clicks working. And I'm going to share the results in 2 seconds here. See if we get to one more vote in. All right, I'm going to share the results. So hard to extract data, 42% of us said that is a challenge. Workflows don't migrate, 42% say that is a challenge. Data validation at 67%, and data quality at 67%. So all of these are challenges, it appears, but it looks like data validation and quality have been the most challenging.
Right. Thank you, Scott.
All right,
so,
we're back to your slide.
As the poll indicates it to be true, so we have also listed down the challenges to a successful migration, and we have identified 3 major challenges. The first one being the data quality, and the second one is the data transformation specifications, and the third one is the data validation. So when we talk about data quality, there are always scenarios where there are missing entries, duplicates, or erroneous data, and sometimes, as we just discussed in the extract phase and also in the plan phase, the data may not be suitable for the target system in most of the cases, especially because some of the either the source system has a lot of data that cannot be put into the target system, or the target system expects a lot of data that the source system cannot provide. So in addition to that, there are always scenarios where the documents will be left out, or scenarios like orphan data and absolute data. All these things, to help us in all these things, we have the transformation phase. And there are also scenarios where the transformation specifications may not be handled properly, and we need to explicitly take care of these things by providing intermediate configuration files when we extract the data out of the Quickr system. And all the data that we extract is not going to go inside, and some of the things are going to stay behind. The stuff like workflow that we just discussed, it was also part of the poll that we had. So Quickr has the native workflow, whereas Office 365 doesn't support it by default, because the migration tool cannot really pull out all the forms along with its data and put it in the target system. There are some amount of manual exercises that needs to be done to enable such kind of features, and we cannot definitely expect the toolkit or the process to handle it 100%, but whereas we can keep all these errors and issues at minimum by providing the proper data transformation specifications. And the last one being the data validation. So the issue here is if the toolkit is if the toolkit is incapable of providing you the set of reports and the logs for administrators to be able to decide on whether all the data that we wanted to move is migrated from the source system to the target system, then we will not be able to assume safely that, okay, yes, whatever problems that we had, it is solved 100%. And that 1% is still, not really good to have kind of a thing. So these are all the key challenges that we identified, and then now we move to the key components that a migration tool must have. So when we extract out of a Quickr, one of the things we want to maintain is the hierarchy of the places. Quickr supports rooms, subrooms, and so on. And when we extract it out, we don't want to disturb the structure. And when we export it, the other things like the controls of Quickr, files, places, and attachments in the pages. All those things need to be of the proper structure so that the tool can handle it, and then the tool can further process the data that was extracted. So as much as the actual files that are available in the system is important, the metadata is important as well. So keeping this in mind, we need to extract the comments, the created date, modified date, and who created it, and then who last modified the documents. And then the load process needs to load. The way that we have designed this particular thing is the tool needs to put down the structure of a place in the target system, and then it needs to handle the files, folders, and pages, because the transformation phase takes care of all the other things at the later stage once the structure is in place. And that it also maintains the size, file, and the page level privileges. And at the end of it, for the administrators to have a safe assumption that all of the process that was done is 100% okay, and if there are any exceptions, and how do we identify and learn from that, and hence solve that. We also have the error logging capability. So keeping all these things in mind, and keeping the entire experience that we gain from being part of multiple migration projects, and also using multiple tools, we put together all our ideas into this, and we designed a tool that will be simple but not simpler enough. So I'm just going to explain the interface to you. So the interface that we are seeing in the screen is contains dashboard, extract, and then transfer and load. So the dashboard will provide you with a neat set of reports that will tell you like the kind of things that got migrated in the past, and what needs to and the kind of things that were left behind, and so on. And then the extract phase takes the input from you of the domino that hosts Quickr. Basically, the administrator username and password, and also the server host name and the port number. The port number that we need to supply here is the DI-IOP port number, and then the transfer process takes care of the transformation of any data that needs to happen from the source system to the target system. And the next process is load, and we will look at this process in detail in the flow chart that we're going to have. So the next is the prerequisites for the specific tool that we have. As we discussed, DI-IOP needs to be enabled on the DI-IOP needs to be enabled on the Quickr server if it is going to be a domino flavor of Quickr, and if it is going to be a WebSphere flavor of Quickr, we can handle this process of extract by using REST APIs. And the administrator credentials needs to be supplied, as we just discussed in the interface. And the server access details like host name we already know, and the extraction location. The data that will be extracted out of Quickr needs to be stored in an intermediate file system storage. So we also need to keep in mind about the storage considerations we may have. So if there are going to be a huge number of places with a lot of content, then we need to appropriately size the storage accordingly. And there are also options available to extract the content out of Quickr and put it directly on the cloud storage. So the next phase is the transformation phase, and this is again a critical phase as we discussed earlier, especially with two different systems using two different directory servers. It is really difficult to map the users if there are no common attribute to map. So we are going to use email ID as a mapping parameter in our scenario, but a lot of different tools use entirely different sets of mapping. And we are trying to use CSV as a configuration file to keep the hassles minimum, so that all we need to supply is the key value pairs of information. And finally, at the load phase, we need to just supply the Office 365 credentials, and the load routine takes care of the rest. So this is the flow. This is the way the tool is going to work, and it starts with the DIOP enabled IBM Quickr domino that we have, and the extraction routine takes care of extracting all the data out of Quickr and puts it on the file system, so that along with its supporting files, so that the transformation and the load process can take the data from here. And parallelly, it will also give you the feedback and also the progress of the extraction that has happened, along with the logs and reports for administrators to read from. So the next phase is the transformation and load phase. So any data that was extracted and available in the file system, it needs to be handled, it needs to be transformed and then put into the SharePoint website, SharePoint sites on Office 365. So the load written here takes care of transforming the documents and then uploading the necessary documents into the relevant places in SharePoint, along with the ownerships intact. So we already talked about the user mapping in the transformation phase. So we can designate users based on their roles, as well as if people have already left the company, we can map another alternative owner for such to handle such files and posts. And at the end of the process, we will have logs and reports to read from, so that we'll know if we will be able to validate if the process is 100% successful or if there are any data that is left behind. So this slide would explain us of why we think our methodology stands out and how does it stand out. So our methodology is based on the ETL standard, but it is not a typical lift and shift approach. As we know, the transformation, the data transformation here is the key. So we also designed the toolkit in such a way that the source system would require minimal configurations. So from the tools that we have handled, we have even seen tools where it requires extensive configuration changes in the source systems, and some may even ask you to upgrade the Domino servers, and some may even ask you to upgrade all the places to the latest version of Quickr packages. And we try to keep the transformation specification as agile as possible. Like as we just saw, it's just a CSV file with the key value pairs that needs to be supplied. And our methodology ends with adoption that ensures seamless usage. So as we described, our adoption takes care of understanding the users and also understanding the source system even before the process starts, so that the users will be able to do all of those things even in the target platform once the data is migrated. So this framework works on the users that enables them to use the new tool, so they would feel little or no hassles in using the tool like the tool is meant to be used, even after Quickr is migrated. So with this, we are going to look at the post-migration challenges and also the solution that we have. So Scott, can you run the third poll?
Okay, our third and final poll. I'll pull that up on the screen now. Okay, how do you think users can be benefited the most in the migration? And again, select all that apply. The benefit would be helping users use Office 365, helping in governance policies, or customization of 365 for your business needs. Excellent. Over 50% of us are voted here, so let's continue. Let's get a couple more in. Give us about 5 more seconds, and then we can display the results. All right, I'm going to display the results. So 60% of us say that helping users use Office 365 is going to be a main benefit, 50% helping in governance policies, and 60% in customization of Office 365 for business needs.
Thank you, Scott.
Okay.
Yeah. So with this, we'll first look at the usability challenges that we have identified. So as we're looking at the screen, platform knowledge is one, and the continuity of usage is another, and then the third one is the navigation. So platform knowledge is how to access and the credentials that needs to be used, and the terminologies that changes from between the source system and the target system. In our case, it's Quickr and Office 365, and also the differences in moderation or the upload policies, restrictions, and any limitations if we may have. And when we talk about navigation, navigation is simple, but then as the user starts to use the system for over a period of time, they get habituated to accessing the certain application features at certain places. And when the system changes drastically, this kind of keeps the users puzzled, and they will not be able to use the system as they intended to. And continuity of usage is whenever a system is migrated to a different system, like whatever state the Quickr place was used at the time of the migration, the users needs to be able to continue and pick it from there, from the target system, after the data is migrated. And we need to ensure that, or at least make the users understand that if they have to expect any of the contents to not be there in the target system. So in order to overcome all of that, this is the solution that we have. So this is part of a broader adoption framework that we have, which starts with enablement workshops, awareness drives, expertise booth, lunch and learn, and one-on-one sessions. So the input for each of these activities comes from the usage dashboard and also the Quickr migration dashboard. So the Quickr migration, even at the planning phase, we have extensive metrics like this, which will help us to understand what kind of data that needs to be migrated, the places that can be safely left behind, or maybe plan an archival strategy for. And with these kind of inputs, we can always plan the enablement workshops accordingly. So when we talk about enablement workshops, we'll first enable users about the tool that they are using. In our case, it's Office 365, and where the data maps is already explained in one of the slides. So the users needs to be made aware of the new tool that they are going to use, right? Even at the time when we haven't even planned to start the migration process, because the users needs to be informed well ahead of time. Or some of them, super users, can be identified from the way that they have been using the Quickr system, and at least they need to be made aware of the kind of things that they need to expect once they move to Office 365. And the inputs that we will gather at this stage is as valuable as the entire project is. And the next one is the awareness drives. So the user needs to be kept aware of the kind of events that we are planning, and then the expertise booth will help users to understand whatever whatever that happens behind the hood, as well as about the tools in extensive things. So in lunch and learn, we will collaborate with users. The experts will mingle with users and make them understand about the tool quite extensively. And one-on-one sessions are the which will happen on either virtual or physical, where the users will be explained about the tools in depth. So with this, we will look at a quick demo of the tool that we have designed. So here we are looking at the Quickr interface, and we just picked a place that needs to be migrated. And right now you can look at all the folders and files that are available on the Quickr system. So we are supplying the inputs that the Quickr migration tool needs, which is the administrator ID, host name, and the DIOP port number. And once we say get places, it would list us the places that are available on Quickr server. We can select one of that. In our case, it's Malka docs. And when we say extract, it has extracted in the file system. So in the same file and the folder structure, we can access all the artifacts that got extracted out of Quickr. And the next process is transform and load. For transform, we are using a CSV file, as we just saw, and then the load process takes care of the rest of the things. And there is a quick log here that neatly tells us of the artifacts that are getting migrated. And at the end, it will also give us a quick snapshot of the number of documents that got migrated and the folders that got created. In Office 365, we are able to see the similar structure of files and folders that got migrated along with the name of the places. And if the ownership remains intact here, both modified by as well as the last modified users and things like that. So this is just a quick comparison of the folders and files that we have on Quickr versus the folders and files that got migrated to SharePoint.
Thanks, Balaji, for showing across how the tool as well as the methodology works. So the critical part to understand here from the overall process is to tackle the challenges and to be able to plan ahead of time and also help the users adopt the new platform. Now, the key thing here, a few points before we close. Please be aware that especially large organizations have such a large quick assist environment. It's probably not going to be possible to move everything and say, okay, from today I cut over to live. So there is need for incremental moves, and then getting people slowly over into the new platform. 2, as you guys might have already noticed, the workflows don't move. So there is a need for expertise to customize Office 365, and at least to a certain extent. The key is sometimes your workflows in Quickr can be pretty complex and they've been built over time, and trying to build all of them in Office 365 might take time. But at the same time, there are tools available in Office 365, workflow engines that are available, which allow for visually configuring workflows that can work on documents, pretty much like giving the users the experience of working with Quickr. So you just get the same stuff, but it doesn't move over automatically. Part of it does, and then you still have to work on top of it to make sure that the users get the same experience with Office 365. The third aspect, as Balaji pointed out, is the adoption aspect of it, which is pretty critical, because for all that you have moved everything, if the user does not get the feeling that he is able to do what he was doing at the same productivity, now he is going to resist. They're going to resist saying, hey, this is not working for me. Why are you doing this? Why am I not having what I used to do earlier? Now, the critical thing is to gently and very proactively bring these users up to speed, and especially target those, and typically it is probably 5 to 10% of the entire feature set of Office 365 that they use, but just making sure that all your users are up to speed on those 5 to 10% of features and the way they work, so that they genuinely feel that they have not lost any productivity. So with those closing statements, I'm open for questions, Balaji and I, and we can take any questions now.
Okay, if anyone has questions, now's the time to type them into the GoToWebinar control panel. So we'll have a couple of questions coming in here probably. Make sure everybody's still with us. Couple of questions come in. While we don't discuss specific pricing, there is a question about the pricing model. So how is this priced by user, price server? Is it some other methodology? So don't discuss specific pricing, but give them an idea of the model.
Yeah, if the person can just send an email, Shri can take that over. And in general, the email address is provided on screen. Generally, we are not so much just giving the toolkit, but it's a complete solution. So that is what Sri will discuss when they can share specifics of how the model works and what are the options for the user, for the customers to engage and how it can be made happen.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Next one, how about Quickr connectors? How do you handle those?
Okay, so the key is, as we said earlier, the organizations that typically benefit the most are ones which have at least picked Office 365 already for email. Now, even if they have not, then so your Quickr connector doesn't move, but then Office 365 has this option of a combination of things. You do have the OneDrive, and you do have other connectors that allow you to work with Office 365 directly from your local PC. That's what we take advantage of. The connectors don't move. Basically, the existing connectors do not move.
Okay, brilliant. Excellent. Okay, again, we've got some questions coming here. We will have to handle offline, little specific and private company information, so we will have Marga respond directly to those. Is there any plan to move data into Office 365 groups as opposed to just SharePoint?
At least at this point in time, we primarily focus on SharePoint. The reason is the kind of tools to build workflows are available and ready right now. I haven't seen, SharePoint itself gives you some workflow options, but they are not as, that they don't affect complex workflows and things like that. Because of that is why we chose SharePoint Online, because you do have existing tools, existing workflow engines that can be used very quickly to build the workflows that people are used to in Quickr. And we have seen quite a few complex workflows as well. So that is the reason.
Okay, brilliant.
And if you have a specific use case for groups and you feel, hey, groups will work better for us, do send the use case. We can look at it, as Balaji said, from a toolkit perspective, it's pretty customizable and it is possible to do that. But if you can send a specific use case, you can always take a look.
Excellent. Okay, thank you very much. Another question coming in that specifically about a feature that's available in Quickr, just checking to see if there's some type of equivalent once the migration is done. So the question is, Quickr had a feature where emails would tell people if new content was added to Quickr. Is there a way to do that after the migration into SharePoint?
Scott, could you just repeat that? So emails to notify people, right, on new content?
Correct.
Okay, so there are notification elements in Office 365. Not all of them behave the exact same way as Quickr does, right? So some of them have to be customized. So depending upon the needs, it is possible to kind of make that same thing happen. But exact equivalent, if you say, hey, I had this in Quickr, does it work, notification work exactly the same way in SharePoint? To my understanding, no.
Right. And as we understand that Quickr is a very old tool, and recently whatever tools that are available under the social collaboration market space, the notifications are handled entirely different. So the notifications are only made in the individual applications that we are handling. In this case, it's SharePoint on Office 365. So we will have web notifications that appears in a small browser-based window. And if it needs to be extended to email-based notification, yes, of course, it can be enabled.
Okay, brilliant. All right, I think we're kind of at the end of our questions at this time. Just remember, if you do come up with a question or think about something after the webinar ends, you can always send an email to sales@margasystems.com, and they'll be happy to respond. And just a reminder, we did record this session, and we'll send you out a link to the session, recorded session, as soon as it's ready, so that you can share this with your colleagues, and hopefully this would work out for you if you're looking for a solution. So, yep, that's all of our questions. So, Guy and Balaji, thank you very much for your presentation. Very well done. As always, the slide deck is amazing. The demo was great. It was kind of nice to have something pre-recorded right there, so you didn't have to worry about something not happening in live mode. So that was a unique way to present that. I'll give you the last word, and then we'll go ahead and end the webinar. So, Guy and Balaji, I'll give you the last word.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to attend today. As I said, what we do is help organizations work with Quickr and move it seamlessly to the target platform. Here it's Office 365, and do concentrate on the aspects of adoption, because we see that makes a difference in success. That's what I want to leave you with.
Thank you, Scott. Thanks, everyone, for joining the webinar.
Great. Thank you to you two, and thank you for everyone for joining. Have a great day, everybody.